Hello, good morning. After a bruising week at the dispatch and ballot boxes, the pressure on the Prime Minister's mounting once again. Simon Case, the country's top civil servant and the man charged with leading the investigation into alleged Christmas parties at Downing Street, has been forced to step aside. Now, it's because it was revealed that he himself was aware of a separate party in his own office a year ago. And if the fallout was not pressure enough for Boris Johnson, well, he's now weighing up options to curb record numbers of COVID-19 cases. He'll call an emergency Cobra meeting this weekend with lockdown measures reportedly on the table. Our political correspondent, Joe Pike, has this morning's first report.
He's off the case. The UK's top civil servant no longer investigating Christmas parties because he was at one.
Boris Johnson has set the tone for his government, and he lives by one rule for him and another rule for everyone else. And I think, people can see through that now, and it's incredibly hard to believe that no one in government knew that these parties were happening.
It's about the behaviour of the Prime Minister, about the stuffing of cronies into the House of Lords, over the scandal that was seen over the renovation of the flat in Downing Street, where he's misled Parliament. Quite frankly, this is behaviour which is unacceptable. And it is time that he went, and he should be taking his cabinet secretary with him.
The woman now in charge is Sue Gray, a formidable former government ethics chief. The partygate scandal is growing by the day, as is the civil service investigation into what happened and when. But under Sue Gray, it could be highly dangerous for Boris Johnson and his team. She is fearsome, independent-minded, pulls no punches, and has ended ministerial careers. Her report, when it comes, may draw a line under this whole saga, but some in Downing Street could end up as collateral damage.
The ayes to the right, 369. The noes to the left, 126. So the ayes have it, the ayes
After a week of parliamentary rebellions, COVID concerns, and by-election batterings, Boris Johnson knows the buck stops with him.
I'm responsible for everything that the government does, and of course I take a personal responsibility.
Some Tory MPs say he needs to change. We'll soon find out if that's even possible. Joe Pike, Sky News, Westminster.
Well, on to coronavirus now, and after record cases were recorded for a third straight day, there are reports that further restrictions are being considered, including plans for a possible 2-week circuit breaker lockdown after Christmas. The government says it will keep measures under review as it learns more about the Omicron variant. It's continuing efforts to ramp up the booster campaign with stadium and racecourses transformed into vaccination centres, as Ali Fortescue reports.
This was a week before Christmas last year, and we've come a long way since then. The streets are busier, there is some Christmas cheer, but hanging heavy uncertainty over Omicron.
We're not overly comfortable. It's more crowded here than it has been, but we've been pleased for our sake that it's not been very busy, if you know what I mean.
We're hard at work, and we haven't had very much chance to soak up some Christmas spirit, so Christmas atmosphere, so we're just having a day out and just being careful about it.
But as people prioritise, businesses need help.
You run a restaurant on one of the busiest streets of the world, one of the busiest times of year. How is business?
Not great to begin with. It's there, but not what it's supposed to be at this time of the year.
London is the epicentre of the outbreak in this country. More than 60% of cases here now are Omicron, and it's overtaken Delta as a dominant strain. And while it's by no means empty here, it is not as busy as it should be this time of year, because lots of people are making their own minds up, looking at the data and deciding to stay at home.
And where matches have been cancelled, stadiums are being transformed. Wembley, Anfield and Stamford Bridge among the places stepping up this weekend to deliver boosters.
I think the boosting program will definitely help. But I think at this point in time, when you have cases of a new variant that are doubling in less than 2 days, nothing that depends on vaccination is going to be fast enough. Simply because somebody who's getting vaccinated today, it'll take between 1 to 2 weeks for them to develop that level of protection. And in that period of time, you expect perhaps 3 to 7 doublings already to have occurred.
Preliminary studies are optimistic about boosters and Omicron, but as cases surge across Europe, navigating a route through this will matter well beyond Christmas. Ali Fortescue, Sky News.
Well, our correspondent Sadia Chowdhury is at the Charlton Athletic Football Ground in southeast London and joins us now. Good morning to you, Sadia. So the booster race is on.
Good morning, Vanessa. Yes, do you remember earlier in the week when the NHS England's medical director for primary care, Dr. Nikki Kanani, said that football fans should go to a stadium to get their boosters this weekend? Well, this is it. This is Charlton Athletics football ground being converted into a mass vaccination centre again. They did so earlier in the year, but it's happening again here, which means that fans, not just of Charlton Athletic, of course, anyone can come in here to get their vaccines. It opens at 8 o'clock this morning. It's walk-ins, but as well as that, it's also people that can book their appointments using the NHS booking service. And it's going to run today and tomorrow. It's not just at this site. There are football grounds across the country that are also doing this. And it comes as part of this big push to offer everyone a booster vaccine. We've got Old Trafford in Manchester, who's also running clinics like this. The Wembley Stadium is being used. In addition, there are going to be 750 personnel from the armed forces and thousands of volunteers all taking part in this drive to get boosters into people's arms. And it comes, of course, as COVID cases are rising. We know that the Premier League is being affected. There are only 5 fixtures this weekend, 2 of them today. And it comes as clubs are reporting COVID outbreaks amongst their team and their staff, coaching staff, training ground staff, which is why games are having to be postponed. But it also comes as the Health Secretary confirmed that more than half of the adult population who are eligible for boosters have received their booster vaccines now.
Sadia in Charlton, southeast London, thank you. Well, let's take a look at those record-breaking COVID-19 numbers across the UK. There have been 93,045 new cases of COVID-19 recorded in the latest 24-hour period. Another 111 deaths have been reported within 28 days of a positive test. And that brings the total number of deaths in the UK to 147,048. 32,677 people received their first dose of a vaccine, while 42,497 had their second dose. Now, that means that more than 46.9 million people have now received their second dose. And another daily record, 861,306 people received their booster or third vaccine in the past 24-hour period. 26.3 million people have now had their booster or third jab. That's half of all adults in the UK. Well, that's the picture here in the UK, but the Omicron variant is also causing increasing concern across Europe. France has announced a raft of new measures, including a ban on fireworks and official public parties this New Year's Eve, and reducing the time between a second and booster jab to 4 months. The country's health pass will also become a vaccine passport, meaning people will now have to be fully vaccinated to get into restaurants, museums and sporting events. All that was announced just hours before new travel restrictions came into force, banning travel to and from the UK without compelling reasons.
If we've already recorded several hundred cases of Omicron in France, we think this variant will spread very quickly and will become the dominant strain from the beginning of 2022, as it already is in the United Kingdom. That's why we've decided to apply new controls and restrictions on people arriving on French soil from the UK.
Meanwhile, Ireland's Prime Minister Micheál Martin has warned that vaccines alone will not be enough to get through the Omicron wave, as he announced new measures. From Sunday until the end of January, there will be an 8 p.m. curfew for restaurants, bars and all indoor sports and events, while wedding receptions will be limited to 100 guests. In the Netherlands, the partial lockdown that's been in place since November was recently extended until mid-January. Local media reports say the Dutch government's health experts are advising a full lockdown to slow the spread of Omicron. A decision on that is expected later today. And in Denmark, all cinemas, theatres and museums must close from Sunday. Face coverings are also already compulsory in shops and on public transport, but that will now be extended to schools and places of worship. And some of the Danish Queen's Golden Jubilee celebrations are even being postponed. They were due to take place in January. Over to the US now, and Ghislaine Maxwell has told the judge at her sex trafficking trial that she will not testify in her own defence. Her legal team rested its case after 2 days of presenting evidence in New York. It's thought a verdict could be reached as early as next week. Sky's Martha Kellner has this report.
These are nervous times for Gillen Maxwell's siblings Kevin and Isabel. In the next week, a jury will likely decide whether their younger sister will spend the rest of her life in prison. Ghislaine Maxwell has listened intently as her life has been dissected for the past 3 weeks, her alleged crimes laid bare. Finally, it was her turn to address the court. She was calm and assured, but it was brief. She said, "Your Honour, the government has not proven its case beyond reasonable doubt, so there is no need for me to testify." The defence rested its case after just 1.5 days, far sooner than expected.
Eva, do you regret your friendship with Jeffrey Epstein?
They had called billionaire Dr. Eva Dubin, a long-time friend and defender of Jeffrey Epstein. He was godfather to her 3 children. She was asked, "Were you and Mr. Dubin comfortable with the relationship between Mr. Epstein and your children?" "Yes, we were," she responded. They called him Uncle F. "Did you observe any inappropriate behaviour between Mr. Epstein and teenage girls?" she was asked. "I did not," she responded. But crucially, under cross-examination, Dr. Dubin admitted she was struggling with her memory recently and couldn't recall events from a long time ago. The defence also lost key legal arguments over the admission of a number of witnesses. When they returned for closing arguments on Monday, Maxwell's expensively assembled team of lawyers will hope for a more convincing performance. Martha Kellner, Sky News, New York.
Sky News has gained exclusive access to the smuggling middlemen responsible for organising the journeys of 10 of the people who died in the Channel last month. The agent, based in Iraqi Kurdistan, acts as an intermediary between the families of people desperate to reach the UK and the smugglers profiting off them. Well, many migrants come from war-torn countries like Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen and Iraq. Others are fleeing economic failure in places like Iran and parts of Africa. Well, the key routes are via the Western Mediterranean from Morocco into Spain, through Tunisia and Libya, up into Malta and Italy, via the Eastern Mediterranean through Turkey and Greece, or increasingly via Belarus and into Eastern Europe. Well, that's the favoured route for many from Iraq, which was home to several of those who died 3 weeks ago. Our Middle East correspondent Alistair Bunkle reports from Iraqi Kurdistan.
We've been given permission to meet a travel agent from a Kurdish town in the mountains of northern Iraq. He is one of the money middlemen in the global smuggling network. They mostly work from small offices in towns around the Middle East, trusted by the smugglers and by the migrants and their families. They rarely ever appear on camera.
صعبي كسكا نفركا دي ضلبون دبارة دادنين بو فلانكس كوركان ببارينيتو بو نمونا لتركيا بو إيطاليا يعني لبلاروسيا بو ألمانيا لفرنسا بو بريطانيا ما بس باركا ملا دانين كجيش تشويني خوان باركا أنا دنين نجيش باري خوي دبيتو وكو زامني كي باركا كلا يمدادن.
The travel agents are integral to the whole smuggling process. This agent helped 10 of the 31 people who drowned in the English Channel last month. He still holds their money, but it will eventually go back to the families.
How do you feel about the deaths of so many people who came from this district?
زور شو زور روج دايم بيرم لي كردونا توا دايم تلفونم كردوا بو فرنسا قلت موضعي ونفرانا بيكي بين لشوي بين تلفون بو براكيان كردوا وەزعیەوانم پرسیوە تەلەفۆنم بۆ کەس و کاریان کردووە زۆر دڵ بە خەمی زۆریشمان پێ ناخۆشە بەڵام هیچ مەجالێکی دەرچوون نییە.
Business seems to be non-stop. The agent is constantly on the phone when we are there, passing on instructions to the families and phoning smugglers.
باشی برام چاوە ماچەکەم سێ دانیان 2000 دوو دانیان فەرهاد و قارەمان 1800 یۆرۆیە پاوەنە ئەوانەم شەوەیان پەڕێنەوەیان سبەی شەو ئاها یعنی سبەی باریانەکە نەمانە ئەی چەند نەفەر بارەکەن 30 نەفەر ئەی هەوا چۆنە؟ باشە مەزبوطە هەوا؟ لەخوا بە زیاد بێ.
A young man comes into the office just as we are about to leave. His sister is in northern France and she is trying to reach Britain. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about your sister taking that trip across the channel after what happened last month?
والله هم أوانش وهم أمش حصي شيء تسمعني بلام أشتيك أعرف ولا ناصاري وأشتيك خوي جورج بيني أو هذا الصلاة مدنية ونيا.
When is your sister making the journey? Do you know?
I'm sure.
She's going tonight.
I'm sure. I'm sure. نزيكي بيشو بسمين شو دبر بس ديارك كشو هواي خوش نيا بفريان بارانا لبر أوي.
How are you feeling?
بطاقتها
والله أرى والله هم كانت شيء عاد رجعي هاتون هاتي ونيا أو ريانا.
So she's paid £2,500.
Yeah.
For what? For the entire journey or just for tonight's crossing?
For tonight.
Just for tonight's crossing?
يعني 2500 باونية بس بوم شو؟
So £2,500 to travel across the English Channel tonight. If you remove these travel agents from the chain, the smuggling wouldn't stop. Instead, the smugglers would be more likely to rip off the families. It might be illegal, but just look at his car. It's made him a rich man. Alistair Bunkle, Sky News, in northern Iraq.
So the weather then, what's that got in store for us? Let's get all the details now.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, conditions will remain very quiet over the weekend. That's the great news, but we do have some dense fog patches in eastern parts leading to travel issues. And the zone from Yorkshire through to East Anglia, taking in the Midlands, will be worst affected with visibility less than 100 metres in places where fog will be reluctant to clear. Elsewhere, there will be further patches of mist and fog along with low cloud, which will affect much of England and Wales.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Now, real or fake? That's often the big question when it comes to buying a Christmas tree. Up to 8 million real Christmas trees are sold in the UK each year. What a staggering amount. But each one needs around 4,000 litres of water to grow. But instead of buying a tree, well, you can rent one and have it delivered, taken away and replanted. Sky's Dan Whitehead has this report.
Where's the tree? Where's the tree?
This Christmas, it's not just Santa that 2-year-old Edward is waiting for. Concerned about the environment, his grandparents have opted for a different type of Christmas tree. Delivered in December, picked up again in January, and then replanted, the family hope their rented Christmas tree will be more friendly for the environment.
Because I see the same tree year on year and I can watch it grow. And when Edward comes in, it'll get bigger, and Edward will get bigger, and it'd be just like bringing part of the family back in, I suppose, really, to something that has some meaning. And environmentally friendly is great because we know we're not throwing anything away.
Eco Elf is the brainchild of Callum O'Driscoll.
I was just fed up of throwing away Christmas trees. Me and my wife, we've always loved getting a real tree, even from when I was a child, you know, and the smell's great. But taking it down to the council organised tip in the car park around the corner, seeing a massive pile of cut trees, it was just a shame, really.
Each Christmas, up to 8 million real trees are sold in the UK. But there is, of course, no shortage of artificial options.
For many, they are the centrepiece of Christmas, but as we're all more conscious of our carbon footprint, just which are better for the environment, real or fake?
According to the Carbon Trust, a 6.5-foot artificial tree equates to around 40 kilograms of CO2 when considering manufacturing, metal, plastic, packaging and transport. A real fertilised tree is a tenth of that, at around 4 kilograms of CO2. However, certain types of artificial trees can have a lower overall carbon footprint if used for at least 7 years. Although artificial might be better long term, a real tree can have other environmental benefits.
If your tree at its end of life, if it's collected by a local authority and then, burnt for energy or used as wood chipping or as composting, then those have really positive benefits as well. So in the composting or chipping example, obviously it helps with, soil quality improvements, and that's really important.
Real or fake, it remains a divisive issue.
I'd like to have a real tree together. It seems a bit lazy to have artificial one.
How long have you had your fake tree?
Oh, it's about 30 to 35 years old.
Has it still got some needles?
Yes, it has. Still got needles, still got the fairy on the top.
Dan Whitehead, Sky News.
Now, businesses up and down the country have borne the brunt of the coronavirus pandemic, and the latest outbreak of the Omicron variant has threatened to cause yet more misery over Christmas. Well, with me now is hairdresser Joe Mills, whose salon has been experiencing cancellations and also staff isolations. So, Joe, good morning to you. Thanks for your time there. It's a double whammy there for you, isn't it, with the staff and also cancellations. How many cancellations have you had?
Good morning, Vanessa. Thanks for having me on. For us as a business, we're based in central London, Soho. We have 3 stores. Compared to a normal pre-pandemic Christmas, we're down at least 50%. And what we've noticed since the Plan B introduction is that there has been, widespread cancellations of clients either working from home and not coming into town, or because they're testing positive, or they don't want to risk the chance of coming into contact with someone with COVID. On top of that, we've had a couple of staff isolations we've had to do. But I think across the industry, it's been a very brutal end to the year. 75% of salons are talking about mass cancellations and a real drop in business.
So how much of your business then do you normally make around this time of year? And I know that this is peak season for businesses like yours.
So I think for hairdressing, barbering and beauty, I think December really is our bumper month, and that carries you through January and February. The issue is that if you aren't making that extra revenue, the start of 2022 for us is becomes more perilous, I guess. And equally with the vagueness of what we're doing and where we're going, and the lack of proper communication has a real direct impact on future planning for your business.
And for you, I mean, in terms of percentage-wise, for example, what are you looking at in terms of the hit that you've taken?
50%.
That's
50%. Oh, it's enormous. If you think about, for us personally, we're based in Soho in central London, and since the Plan B restrictions kicked in, it has had a marked impact on all small businesses, not just my industry. And I understand, how the impact has had on hospitality, but there are lots of other industries, including ours, that don't get the kind of attention of what the impact is having on us as well.
Absolutely. And what kind of support would you like to get from the government? Because the Chancellor has cut short his business trip to the US. Are you hopeful of any financial support at all? I think it's more historical. I think it's more over the whole period of the pandemic rather than a short-term fix. I think HMRC really need to reconsider
the situation that a lot of us are in, because a lot of small business carries HMRC debt. It is a part of business. It's not ideal. Whether that could be capitalised into loans, or whether you had more support, and even a clear understanding. If we knew that there's talk every day now that potential restrictions after Christmas or in January, or all we need is the communication so we can plan. And as a small business owner, you're responsible not only for your staff and their mental well-being, but also your clients as well. So you do carry quite a burden, and I think that it's just clarity. And I don't think that we've had any targeted funding or support specifically for our industry as other industries have. And I think Rishi, if he could at least have a broader spectrum approach to what support we need, and just clarity.
Joe, thank you very much indeed. There's Joe Mills there speaking to us. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, with us now to review the papers are Dawn Neeson, former editor of the Daily Star, along with broadcaster and journalist Vidisha. Good morning to you both. It's great to see you. A little change there, Vidisha. I like it. If you're going to come on Sky News, just show up. Do you know what I mean? I like it. It's good to have you. Vidisha, let me kick off with the case of Simon Case and the parties.
Well, you make it sound like the latest Harry Potter film, Simon Case and the Forbidden Parties, but actually it's not very funny at all, because a lot of people are extremely outraged. So Simon Case, despite his John le Carré-like name, is a very top civil servant who had been tasked until recently with leading an inquiry into MPs in government who were breaking the rules this time last year against having parties, having gatherings. We were supposed to be in lockdown, in isolation, being very careful. You know as well as I do that there were many families all over the country who, just to follow the rules, they wouldn't see their own parents, their own grandkids, their own in-laws, so that we could get these case numbers down. Now, it turns out that the naughty Mr. Case can't investigate this case because he too is guilty, potentially, allegedly, of the very things that he is investigating. So it transpires that there was a party/meeting/ sounds totally dreadful gathering in his own offices. And just to make you not miss parties at all, 15 people from his office were invited to a Christmas gathering. An email went out with a Christmas party, Christmas quiz written in the subject heading. Huge surprise, not everyone turned up for this thrilling sounding party encounter. He himself allegedly did not attend the scintillating quiz. He merely walked through it stone-faced on the way to his own office. The problem is that when you behave like this as a government, you lose the trust of the nation. This isn't really about parties and about this guy. This is about accountability. It's about taking responsibility, and it's about practicing what you preach.
Well, Dawn, is it enough then to say, listen, I wasn't at the party, I wasn't there, it wasn't me? But actually, as Vidisha was saying, you have to look at accountability, leadership too.
Of course you do. And the problem we've all got now, Vanessa, is that we have been told, well, their version of the truth, let's put it that way, about what they were doing and what they expected us to do last Christmas. So I think the vast majority of us now, I mean, myself included, just go, I just can't take your advice seriously anymore. I mean, it's confusing at the best of times, but it's like when you're ignoring all your own rules, how on earth do you expect people to follow the rules you are setting for us? And, you know, there have been several polls over the last couple of days, Vanessa, with people going, they're not doing it. They don't care what the government's saying anymore. It's like, we are not following your rules. We are going to do what we want this Christmas. And you honestly, you know, who can blame them? I mean, this is where we are now.
And Dawn, staying with, you know, the theme around coronavirus, then there's a slight change in gear here. Why are there claims that Sajid Javid's claims of the 200,000 daily cases is no longer valid? What's going on here?
This is really interesting. This was our acclaimed Sajid Javid made on Monday, and it was modelling, and it was used to basically convince the Tory rebels, as we know that a lot of them voted against vaccine passports and the new regulations coming in. It was used to convince them that we did need stricter regulations on our life. Now, and there was a new report that was sort of quietly put out on Thursday, saying that these figures no longer apply and we should not be using them anymore. It's basically, the UK Health and Security Agency consistently warned Omicron doubling every 1.9 days. But methodology has said that this is wrong now and we should drop this modelling. So it's actually, in theory, good news. And, there's the thing with all the statistics, as we said in part one of our newspaper review this morning, the thing with all these statistics is you read. It's all very, very confusing. But the good news, I think, with this, Vanessa, is the information coming from South Africa is that the case fatality rate has plummeted. The death rate for over 80s is around 20% compared to 50% for the Delta. And for 70, 79-year-olds, it's down to 10%. And these are the latest stats coming out of South Africa. So in theory, it is good news, and we really shouldn't be panicking too much.
Well, we'll take any hint of good news that we can get. Let me come to you Badisha, because we're stepping away from COVID right now, and the twist in Strictly Showdown, AJ Adudu, who's supposed to be in the final, may not actually be able to do it because she's had some injury, hasn't she? Now, this is a programme that my parents are obsessed with. Well, more like my mum, and then my dad has no choice. But, it's not something I usually watch, I'll be honest with you, but my interest has peaked because of AJ. What a sad case right now.
Well, is it sad? You said we're stepping away from COVID. Let's just say we're Fox stepping away from COVID because even though it's hard to believe that other channels do exist when we live in the wonderful world of Sky News. But there is a little thing called Strictly Come Dancing. It's on tonight. The finals are on tonight. And yes, AJ has said that she's going to have to step away because of injury. And we know that we've lost other dancers because they're being voted out. And all sorts of COVID ailments and other things have bedeviled the sparkly dancing, moving music and drama show. And I'm wondering just exactly what kind of love affairs are happening behind the scenes. Love is wonderful. So in these dark times, who's to begrudge any of it? But it means the final is going to be interesting just in terms of diversity and equality, because we're either going to have the first really fabulous deaf contestant, which is Rose Eiling-Ellis, or we're going to have the first same-sex couple, which is John and Johannes. Now, they're going to be facing off against each other, but it's a great win in the sense that whoever wins is going to be a pioneer on this massive primetime telly show. They're going to be a front runner for anyone who watched Strictly for all the other dozens of seasons and felt like they weren't represented. Are you telling me that gay guys don't like a dance? Are you telling me that deaf people don't like music? I don't think that's true.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do hope also that AJ does recover quickly. And with your change of outfits as well, Badisha, you could definitely waltz your way there. Dawn, she could, and you too, actually, as well. So, Dawn, have you been following up with Strictly and AJ's injury?
I have, and I feel desperately sorry for her. You think all the hard work that's gone into the training, and it's not just what we get to see on our screens, obviously, but, they prepare beforehand, the immense amount of training that goes on during the week. It's incredibly hard work. And you know what? I mean, I'm a secret fan as well. I haven't watched it religiously, this series, I must admit, obviously because I'm watching Sky News a lot. But it's the sparkles, it's the fun, it's the joy. And at this time of year, I just think it's so important that we do turn off the white noise of COVID and politics and just actually try to have a bit of fun and, the sparkles. It's just lovely. I mean, I love Christmas. So, I mean, you've got a long way to ruin it for me. And all the parties that Number 10 and White are having, well,
well, with your Christmas then, Dawn, you may have to go for a dry Christmas, basically, because apparently we're, festive dry run as drinkers turn to low alcohol alternatives after the year we've had.
Yeah, right, Vanessa. Okay, I can tell you it's really definitely not happening in my world, and I've got a crate of champagne for Christmas being delivered in an hour or so. But yeah, this is in The Guardian, and it's Brits appear to be dreaming of a dry Christmas as supermarket reports soaring sales of low alcohol and non-alcoholic drinks. Sainsbury's said that sales of low alcohol products have soared by 91% compared to last December. I mean, hello, people. How are you doing this? I mean, look, fair play if you are, and lots of people are doing it for health reasons, and obviously there are, the addiction thing aside, obviously there's a serious issue for this, and we've got Dry January coming up, which I might be taking part in.
Yeah.
But I mean, after the year we've had last Christmas,
exactly,
how is anyone going to get through it without a glass of champagne?
Dawn, I'll come to you very quickly, Vidisha. Are you having a dry Christmas? Very quickly.
No, I'm just like Dawn. I've got the champs waiting downstairs.
We'll see you guys in an hour. I'll see you in a few minutes.